Summary of Genesis. The book of Genesis is the first book of the Old Testament and the Bible. It provides the foundational account of creation, the early history of humanity, and God's relationship with His people. It begins with the creation story, in which God creates the world and all its creatures in 6 days. It then follows the story of Adam and Eve, the first humans, who are created in God's image and live in the Garden of Eden. The book also includes the stories of the first family, Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, and Seth, the first civilization, the Great Flood and Noah's Ark, and the Tower of Babel. Later, the book follows the stories of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, and how God makes a covenant with them and their descendants, the Israelites. The book ends with the death of Joseph and the arrival of the Israelites in Egypt. Throughout the book, Genesis highlights the themes of God's sovereignty, His plan for humanity, and His desire for relationship with His people. The story of creation is a foundational account of the origin of the world and all its creatures. The story begins with God creating the heavens and the earth in 6 days. On the first day, God creates light and separates it from darkness. On the second day, God creates the sky and the atmosphere. On the third day, God creates the land and the seas and makes vegetation to grow. On the fourth day, God creates the sun, moon, and stars to govern the day and night. On the fifth day, God creates the sea creatures and birds. On the sixth day, God creates land animals and finally, humanity. God creates Adam, the first man, and Eve, the first woman, in His own image and places them in the Garden of Eden to care for it and live in relationship with Him. Throughout the story, God declares each day's creation to be good, and on the seventh day, He rests. The story of creation in Genesis highlights the themes of God's sovereignty, His plan for humanity, and His desire for relationship with His people. The story of Adam and Eve is a key narrative in the book of Genesis that describes the creation of the first human beings and their relationship with God. According to the story, God creates Adam, the first man, and then creates Eve, the first woman, as a companion for Adam. They live in the Garden of Eden, where God places them to care for it and to live in relationship with Him. God gives Adam and Eve all the fruits of the garden to eat except for the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The serpent tempts Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, and she convinces Adam to eat it as well. As a result, they become aware of their nakedness and feel shame. God comes to the garden and confronts them about their disobedience, and as punishment, He exiles them from the garden. The foundation of the story serves as the biblical narrative of humanity's relationship with God, and the concept of sin. The story of Cain and Abel describes the first murder in human history. Cain and Abel are the sons of Adam and Eve, and they each offer a sacrifice to God. Cain offers some of the fruit of the ground, while Abel offers the firstborn of his flock. God accepts Abel's offering but not Cain's, and Cain becomes jealous and angry. God warns Cain that sin is crouching at his door and that he must overcome it. Despite God's warning, Cain murders Abel in a fit of jealousy. When God confronts Cain about Abel's murder, Cain denies it and tries to hide from God. God marks Cain and exiles him from the land to protect him from further harm. The story of Cain and Abel highlights the themes of jealousy, anger, sin, and the consequences of sin, as well as God's justice and protection. It also serves as a foundational story for the biblical narrative of humanity's sinful nature and the struggle between good and evil. The story of Noah describes God's response to the wickedness of humanity and the great flood that wiped out all life on earth except for Noah and his family. God sees that the earth is filled with violence and decides to cleanse it with a flood. He chooses Noah, a righteous man, to build an ark and gather 2 of every kind of animal on earth, along with his family, to be saved from the flood. Noah obeyed God and built the ark, and when the flood came, he and his family, along with the animals, were saved in the ark. The flood lasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and when it was over, the ark came to rest on the top of a mountain. God then makes a covenant with Noah and all of creation, promising never again to destroy the earth with a flood. The story of Noah highlights the themes of God's justice, His mercy, His faithfulness, and His desire to protect and preserve His creation. It also serves as a foundational story for the biblical narrative of God's plan for humanity and His relationship with His people. The Tower of Babel describes the attempt by humankind to build a tower to reach the heavens. According to the story, all the people of the earth spoke the same language and decided to build a great tower, with its top in the heavens, in the land of Shinar. God saw the tower and was concerned that if the people continued in their unity and language, there was nothing they could not do. So, God confused their language and scattered them across the earth, causing them to no longer be able to understand one another. The story of the Tower of Babel highlights the themes of human pride, unity, and the consequences of human rebellion against God. It also serves as a foundational story for the biblical narrative of the spread of humanity across the earth and the diversification of languages and cultures. Some of the most significant narratives in the Bible that are central to the history of the Israelites are the stories of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. Abraham is considered the father of the Israelites and is known for his faith in God. God makes a covenant with Abraham, promising to make him the father of many nations and to give him and his descendants the land of Canaan. Abraham is tested when God asks him to sacrifice his son Isaac, but God intervenes and provides a substitute sacrifice. Isaac is the son of Abraham and the second father of the Israelites' people. He marries Rebekah and they have twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Jacob is the son of Isaac and the third father of the Israelites' people. He steals the birthright of his brother Esau and becomes the recipient of God's promise to Abraham. He has 12 sons, including Joseph, who become the heads of the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph is sold into slavery by his brothers and ends up in Egypt, where he rises to a position of power. When a famine strikes the land, his brothers come to Egypt to buy food. They don't recognize Joseph. He tests them and eventually forgives them for selling him into slavery. Joseph helps his family settle in Egypt and provides for them during the famine, playing a significant role in the history of the Israelites' people. These stories highlight faithfulness, obedience, forgiveness, and the providence of God in the lives of His people. They also serve as a key component of the Bible's overarching narrative, which outlines God's mission to save humanity and to establish His kingdom on earth through the lineage of Abraham. The book of Genesis ends with the death of Joseph. His death marks the end of the era and a significant period in history, with the Israelites beginning their journey of slavery in Egypt. It serves a reminder of the importance of obedience to God. The death of Joseph serves as a transition in the biblical narrative, setting the stage for the story of Moses and the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. It also highlights the theme of God's providence in the lives of His people, as Joseph's death ultimately leads to the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham to make his descendants into a great nation and to bring them into the land of Canaan. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.